Hello everyone and welcome back to Beatly Tone's Beatles channel. How the devil are you? I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining me for this video, and it's lovely to have you here. Now today's video I hope is going to be a really interesting one, because what we're going to look at the Battle of 1971, Ram versus Imagine. Two absolutely fantastic solo albums from John and Paul, and what we want to try and find out is which one was better. Before we get into that, I just wanted to say a big thank you to all the new subscribers. Welcome. And I also wanted to give a shout out to all the subscribers that seem to get involved in every video and give great comments and stuff. So you are Beatle Dave, Beatle Brad. Both of those have got channels. Check them out. They kind of show their collections, really good stuff. Jay Nagaria, Nondescript, Ethel the Frog, Eddie Miles, Barry, Miguel Oniga from Brazil, Ellen Beckman from Germany, and Rudolph Gonacci. I hope I've pronounced that right. If I haven't, I apologise. I also apologise if I've missed anyone that is commenting regularly. But these are the names that I keep seeing coming up, and if I've missed you, I'll get you next time I do a shout out. So keep commenting, and I will do that. Anyway, so what we're going to do today is we're going to look at these two fantastic albums separately. It's going to be spread over two videos. We're going to look at Ram first, then we'll look at Imagine. What we're going to do is we're going to review the albums and give each track a score out of 10, and then work out an average for the album based on the number of tracks. We have to do that because they've got different number of tracks on them. The exciting thing is I don't even know which one is the winner. I think they're both absolutely fantastic albums, but we'll get into that in a minute. As I said, this is a two-part video, and you wouldn't want to miss the second part of the video, because that's when we're going to find out which of these albums comes out on top. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. You can hit the button over there. It only takes a second. That would be absolutely amazing. And give the video a like and hit the notification bell, and you won't miss a thing. Right, let's get into Ram. So Ram was released on the 17th of May 1971, and it was credited to both Paul and Linda McCartney, as over half the songs were co-writes, so the songs were credited to Paul and Linda McCartney. And Linda's contribution to this album shouldn't be underestimated. Most of the atmosphere on this album is created by her backing vocals, so she was very important to this album. Whether Linda did have any input into the writing of any of the songs is, of course, open to debate, but that's a story for another video, I think. The sessions took place in New York and included recordings quite a few songs that didn't make the album, like Paul's first hit single, Another Day. It got to number 5 in the UK. But they also recorded the B-side, I Don't Know Why, and things that appeared on Red Rose Speedway, like Get On The Right Thing, Little Lamb Dragonfly, and I Lie Around, which was the B-side of Live and Let Die. One of the criticisms levelled at McCartney was that the first album, where he plays everything, was a little bit self-indulgent. So for this album he tried to counter that by recruiting some musicians. So apart from Paul and Linda on the album, we've got Denny Sywell on drums, who later became a full-time member of Wings. We've got David Spinoza on guitar, who incidentally had a little bit of a thing with Yoko in 1973 when he played on her Feeling the Space album. And we also had Hugh McCracken on guitar as well, and that was the lineup for the album. So these days Ram is held in very high regard. I mean, a lot of Beatles fans will argue this is Paul's very best album, but when it came out in 1971 it was universally slammed by critics, and I've got a couple of the reviews here. So Rolling Stone called it incredibly inconsequential and momentally irrelevant. The NME in Britain, that's New Musical Express if you don't know, called it an excursion into the most unrelieved tedium and the worst thing Paul McCartney has ever done. John Lennon, always got a view on everything, hasn't he? He said, I thought it was awful. McCartney was better because at least there were some tunes on it, like Junk. I like the beginning of Ram On, the beginning of Uncle Albert, and I like some of My Dog's Got Three Legs. I like that little bit about Hands Across the Water, but it just tripped off all the time. I didn't like that bit. And Ringo said, I feel sad about Paul's albums. I don't think there's one good tune on the last one, meaning Ram. He just seems to be going a bit strange. And I think that it's possible that the music critics had it in for Paul a bit because I think there was a bit of bias because he was still at that time considered as being the bloke who broke up the Beatles and the one who was suing his mates. But anyway, despite the rubbish reviews, it still did very well as far as fans go. It got to number 1 in the UK, number 2 on the US Billboard chart. It got to number 1 in Canada, in Holland, in Norway, Spain, Sweden, and number 3 in Australia. So it still did very well. So the opening track, Too Many People, what a great opener it is too. Starts off with the words piece of cake, or is it piss off cake? I'm not really hearing piss off cake, I'm hearing piece of cake, especially when you consider the lyric of the first verse where it actually says the words piece of cake, so I think that's what it is. It was hailed as being a song about John, and John definitely took umbrage to it, but it's not entirely about John. Too many people preaching practices, definitely. You took your lucky break and broke it in two, for sure. Too many people never sleeping late. I don't think so. Let's be honest, John liked a bit of a lie-in, didn't he? Especially if it was for peace. Too many people paying parking fines. I don't think that was John. Yeah, that was definitely John. That was definitely John. Whatever it was, he didn't like it. And this song is probably the inspiration for How Do You Sleep from the Imagine album, which we'll get into later. There were other things on this album that he thought were about him. But let's not talk about that so much, because this is a great track and we don't want to miss the fact that it is a great track. It's got 2 cracking guitar solos, probably played by Hugh McCracken, and a great vocal from Paul. And Linda's backups are very prominent here, as they are throughout this album. In the bridge where he sings "You Took Your Lucky Break and Broke It in Two," that part is sung very sweetly, which gives it great light and shade against the sort of the rough house viciousness in McCartney's vocals in the verse. And this is a really strong song lyrically from McCartney, with some great lines. Too many hungry people losing weight to rhyme with too many people never sleeping late is great. And talking about that line, "You took your lucky break," that started off as being Yoko took your lucky break and broke it in two, but he changed it, and probably for the better. Anyway, a great opening song, and I'm giving that a massive 9. Next up is Three Legs, a song that to me sounds a bit like a bluesy throwaway, but it grows on you before you know it. It was originally called "A Dog Is Here," and here we have even more references to the Beatles. It's quite interesting to note that John and George would be much more open and obvious about references to the Beatles in their songs, but Paul is much more subtle about it, disguising the words and the meanings. But nobody could really fail, including John, to miss, the lines, "When I thought that I could call you my friend, but you let me down." That verse, that's a definite little dig there. "My dog hears 3 legs, your dog hears 1. Possibly that is pointing to the 3 Beatles on one side and Paul on his own on the other. And this song has got a really lovely change of pace in the third verse, the bit where it goes, when I fly above the clouds," stressing the point that he's doing all right now on his own. He's okay and he's soaring. The song's also got a really great walking bass line. So the first two songs on this album are very strong. I'm going to give this one 7.5. So track 3 is Ram On, which is the title track, I suppose, or as close as you're going to get to a title track. Starts off with a lovely little piano flourish, which I think is the bit that John was alluding to in his review of the album. So it's got that at the beginning, but the main instrument here is the ukulele, which I think is the first time that he's ever used that on a record. Only Paul and Linda are on this track, which means Paul plays all the instruments. So the kick drum is him, the foot tapping is him, the hand claps are him, the whistling is him, and he even adds vocally the sound of a trumpet, like he makes a trumpet with his voice on this record, which is interesting. I think Linda's backing vocals on this are often overlooked, but they're great. Also, another bonus, no former Beatles were insulted during the making of this song. However, it doesn't really feel like a title track. It does feel like a throwaway song, but a damn good one at that. So I'm not gonna be too harsh. I'm gonna give this one 6.5. Next up is Dear Boy, another song that John thought was about him, but it's not. It's a song to Linda's ex-husband, sort of saying, you know, look what I've discovered and look what you've missed. You totally blew it, mate, sort of thing. Absolutely great song. The outstanding thing about this song are Linda's harmonies. They are just absolutely fantastic. If you just listen to it, just take a step back from the melody and just concentrate on what's going on in the harmonies to just discover how complex they are. And Paul's aren't too shabby either, but Linda absolutely steals this song, and it's one of my favourites on the album, and I cannot give it less than 10. I'm not messing about with this one. It's 10 for Dear Boy. Next track, Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey, a big production number. It was #1 as a single in the US. They didn't even bother releasing it as a single in the UK. This song is 4 songs sort of merged together, much like the Abbey Road medley thing, where you've got 4 songs. There's the Uncle Albert bit, the Admiral Halsey bit, the Hands Across the Water, and the Live a Little Be a Gypsy bit. Those were 4 different songs that have been merged into one. And Paul really threw everything at this song. There's strings, there's horns, there's orchestration, which was done by George Martin incidentally, sound effects, harmonies galore. So everything chucked into the mix on this song, and it is great. It's all the better for it. Uncle Albert was a kind of apology to the older generation for the things that Paul thought that the older generation complained about the younger generation about. You still with me? What doesn't make sense is that when he's doing his apology on the phone bit, he's talking in a sort of an older person's posh voice, which isn't really sort of younger generation at all. So that didn't really make much sense to me. A minor quibble for me, but Rolling Stone had other things to say about it. They said, it's a piece with so many changes, it never seems to come down anywhere. And the places that it does, it sounds like the worst piece of light music Paul has ever done. He got to #1 in the US, and Paul won a Grammy for his arrangement, so shows what you know, Rolling Stone. So for me, that's going to be a big fat 8.5. So we arrive at the final track on side 1, Smile Away, and this song it segues in from Uncle Albert with some what I can only describe as sort of out of tune guitaring. But it's a straightforward 3-chord rock song, really silly lyrics. There are little diversions with Linda's various backing vocals, lead guitar passages in between the verses and the chorus. Paul's bass is highly distorted throughout the song, but you hear it best when it gets to the sort of Smile Away quietly part, and you can really hear that distorted bass, and it sounds great. But generally, this is just great fun rock track, and it really rocks. So I'm going to give Smile Away 8. So on to side 2 and the first track, Heart of the Country. It does what it says on the tin. Sounds like it's a country song. It is a country song, but don't let that put you off or make you frightened in any way. It's delightful, but maybe a little bit twee. It's one of the few songs on the album that doesn't feature Linda, but it does feature a fabulous bass part by Paul and an interesting style, sort of jazz scat vocal part. It ended up on the B-side of Backseat of My Car off the UK single, but it's better than a B-side. But it doesn't quite reach the heights of some of the other songs on the album. Fun fact about Heart of the Country, when Paul was doing his Unplugged show in 1991 for MTV, Heart of the Country was on the set list. They decided against it. Don't know why, but it didn't make the cut. But it's a decent song, so I'm going to give it a solid 7. On to side 2, track 2, Monkberry Moon Delight. I absolutely love this song with its completely mental nonsense lyrics. I sat in the attic with a piano on my nose, yeah. What is that about? It's as if it was creating a song for Beatles fans to go through with a fine tooth comb looking for meaning and saying, you know, sort that lot out then if you want. But Paul's rasping vocals, much in the style of Oh Darling from Abbey Road, and Linda's backing vocals add a great counterpoint to that. I think this is a top McCartney track, and for that reason I'm giving it the full 10. On to Eat at Home, a straightforward rock pop song, inoffensive, mainly based around the idea of sort of domestic bliss. Some nice guitar parts in this, played by Dave Spinoza. And although this was a track that John Lennon pointed out as being one of his favourites from an album that he wasn't very complimentary about, it's not one of mine. So this one, a 7.5 for Eat at Home. So on to Long-Haired Lady, and this is another song where Paul took fragments of unfinished songs and pulled them together to create this sort of 6-minute epic. And it's a wonderful song. It really is. It really is great. It's the 3 sections. There's the well section at the beginning. Then there's the Who's That Lady section, and then finally the Love Is Long section. And to be fair, this song doesn't get off to the greatest of starts. The well section is hampered by terrible backing vocals from Linda. The sort of, do you love me like you know you ought to do that? It just sounds so childish and playground-like, and it's a bit na, you know. And I just don't think that does the song any favours at all. The song starts to pick up with the Who's That Lady section, especially when he slows it right down for dramatic effect with the long-haired lady sort of refrain at the end of that. And then the Love Is Long section comes in, and this is where the song really wins big. The mandolins are plucking, Linda singing the Love Is Long refrain over and over again, with Paul eventually singing different lyrics over the top. And then we're back into the well bit, just as the previous section has really just started to come into its own. There's no reprise for the Who's That Lady bit, and then it's straight back into the Love Is Long, with Paul singing a counter harmony and the mandolins are back. It's a really strong song, it's a really enjoyable song, but it's not perfect, so it's getting an 8. So the penultimate track is Ram On. Yes, another one. So we get 2 tracks called Ram On. It doesn't even get its own title, and I don't really consider this to be a proper song. It's just a fragment of a song. It's mainly taken from the main song on track 3, but it's got like an ad-lib uke part at the end of it, and it's only 55 seconds. And probably this review of the song is probably longer than the actual song. The most interesting thing about it is right at the end there's a little tag on where Paul sings the first line from Big Bum Bed, who's that coming round the corner, who's coming round the bend. But I'm not going to give this song a mark, because I don't really consider it a proper song. It hasn't got its own title. It's not even called Ram On Reprise. But I don't want to, because it's only 55 seconds, I'd have to give it a really low mark, and that would bring down the average score of this album, and I don't think that it's fair to detract away from how great this album is by including it. So I'm not going to give it a score. We'll just leave it there. So finally we arrive at the last track, the back seat of my car. This is a big production number and a real soaring finale. It was a single in the UK, but incredibly it tanked there. We only got to number 39 here. It's a song about a young couple sneaking off for a dirty weekend down in Mexico City. If you remember, the song made a brief appearance in the Get Back movie in its sort of earliest form, but it really is a fantastic song, best on the album for me, and a real case of sort of saving the best till last. It's mostly a piano-led ballad, but it's got orchestration, it's got layers upon layers of vocal overdubs, and a full-on rock out at the end where he returns to that sort of rasping vocal style that we hear on Monkberry Moon Delight. The We Believe That We Can't Be Wrong part is so powerful, and again Paul returns to that scat singing at the end of that sort of section, and the song it's really is a song that delivers on drama as well as fun. And to me, this is one of McCartney's absolute top tunes as a solo artist. And if I was doing my top 20 rankings of best solo McCartney songs, which I will do at some point, this would be very high up in that chart. I mean, it's a fine ending to a very fine album, and for that reason, I'm giving it 10 out of 10. So the final score for Ram is 92 out of a possible 110, very high score indeed. That gives it an average of 8.364, so it's better than a 4-star album. It's not quite a 5-star album, but it's better than a 4-star album in my view. But I want to hear your view. Tell me in the comments just about Ram. Don't talk about which one you like best out of Ram and Imagine just yet. We'll do that on the Imagine video. But tell me your thoughts about Ram, your favourite tracks, the ones you don't like, whether you think my scores are fair or they're rubbish or whatever. Just stick them down in the comments, that'd be great. And if you've made it this far to the end of the video, then you must have liked the video. So please give it a like. Please support the channel by subscribing, by hitting the button over there. Hit the notification bell. The Imagine video will be along in a couple of days, and we'll find out which of these two fantastic albums comes out on top. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.